been a while. I've just started reading Porn in Frankincense. It has been a while since I finished Disorderly Nights, and so it's always nice to open up and be like, oh my gosh, we're back here, we're back with Frances, this is so great. It's like, so it's especially after like reading books in between. And I'm going to go through chapter 1 because it's just so funny. I can't get over. Okay, so the map is like of the Mediterranean, so it looks like we're going back to the Mediterranean area in this book, which makes sense because I'm assuming this is the book where Lymond is going to hunt down Gabriel to save his son and see Mariota again. I kind of have a bad feeling about this overall. I feel like Mariota's going to die in this book. I also feel like Gabriel's going to die in this book. And I'm unclear if the baby is going to live. I remember like maybe even saying this on camera when I first started reading. I was like, I hope Lymond doesn't settle down and have kids in this series because that would slow it down. But now that he actually is a father, I actually really like that dynamic of how it can change him. It's just adding like another dimension into him because he is such a family person. And in the last book, at the very end, he compromised all of what he should have done, which was kill Gabriel, who is probably going to do more harm than good still by being alive. Or at least not kill Gabriel, but, you know, put him to get him in prison. But he compromised all of that for a son who may or may not exist, and may or may not, even if he does exist, is now might not be alive. Although I think it was confirmed he existed, yes, we know that, but whether or not he's alive still is a big question mark. And whether or not Gabriel is telling the truth about if something happens to Gabriel, the child will die. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think, what's his name? Dragut. I actually think that Dragut has turned against Gabriel and so would probably protect the child anyway, or at least Gabriel's death won't have any impact. But Lymond doesn't know that. So the opening scene in Porn and Frankincense is in a bathhouse, and I've got to say, it's just so funny. Like in book 1 we had Lymond in a brothel, in book 2 we had Lymond in the French court, in book 3 we had Lymond in drag, and now we have Lymond in a bathhouse. But it was really funny because when I opened this up, I actually interpreted this as Jarrett hunting down his quarry, who was Lymond, but I interpreted as they were hunting down Gabriel and they'd found him in a bathhouse. And I'm like, oh my God, we're straight into it. We've found him. It's going to happen. And no, of course it was Lymond in the bathhouse. What was I thinking? Well, it wasn't like he's going to go straight and try to find Gabriel. He's going to, you know, gather information, and why not do it at a bathhouse? It's a bathhouse in Baden, which is in Switzerland area, or where Switzerland should be. I am adoring, by the way, the fact that the chapters have, you can't see it, but it's like the actual place names of where the chapters are. I really like that. And also, now that we don't have parts, I actually know how many chapters are in the book, because previously it would have like part 2, chapter 1. So you wouldn't then know how many chapters there are in total, but there are 29 chapters, all by wherever Lymond is at the time, which is hilarious because chapter 4 is called Una. So at one point Lymond will be inside Una, but we won't go there. I am excited we are getting an Una chapter. I definitely want to see what she's up to, even though I think she's gonna die. So Baden, which is really cool because that's the name of the a cappella group that I once was a part of. I'm gonna have to look up the Baden, I suppose, is what it would be pronounced as, not Baden, Baden. So we have Lymond in this bathhouse, and I just love the descriptions of Lymond. Among them, neat, fresh, and obliging. Obliging, God, it's all an act, isn't it? Was the familiar blazon of Lymond. So Philippa and Jarrett. I am a little bit concerned about how Philippa really convinced herself to come along. I know there's an explanation for it, but I do find it far-fetched. how she managed to like escape from England essentially. Like she's pretending that she's supposed to be elsewhere, but I just find that rather wild. I guess back in, you know, when internet didn't exist, like it was just easy to disappear because you would say I'm going here and there's no way of easily checking. Another description of Philippa, seeing Lymond through Philippa's eyes is like exactly how I would see Lymond. I love the inner thoughts. For a moment, Philippa saw him full face, a printing of blue eyes and pale artistic surprise. Once again, it's all fake. So Lymond is playing a card game with two nuns and another guy that we find out is called Onofrion Zitwitz. So what's happening is there's this bath that is sulfur smelling, which honestly sounds gross. I don't know if I would be able to stand being there. So naturally heated bath by the underwater hot springs or whatever it is. And above the bath on balustrades are a whole bunch of spectators watching people bathe. Though I've since figured out, I thought everyone was naked. No, like people are bathing in full clothes, which is so crazy, but they're bathing in full clothes. But people are basically perving on them from the balustrades, which is what Philippa and Jarrett are doing alongside this guy in pink, shell pink. I love Jarrett's, like, I love how Jarrett is like the new Will Scott, but I do enjoy that Jarrett seems to be more pure in a way. Like Will did have a lot of desire to lead and a lot of ambition and a lot of goodness, but I like how Jarrett is, there's a lot more righteousness and purity about him, which can be annoying, but I actually find it quite endearing. And yeah, I do like Jarrett. And maybe it's just because, you know, how some of you guys, when you're commenting, you're like, I like all of the books. I like the one that I'm reading at the time. Maybe I just like Jarrett because he's the companion at the time. But I absolutely love this Jarrett-Philippa Lymond dynamic. I think it is such a good mix of character and personality. It really is. Jarrett's just like, yes, I can introduce you to Lymond, but there is likely to be a detonation which will take the snow off Mont Blanc. That is just so funny. It's just of all the places to find Lymond, they've managed to track him to a bathhouse. I bet you Jarrett's just like, could we not have found him 5 days beforehand when he was somewhere else, anywhere but here? I love how Philippa is not afraid of Lymond at all, but notices that Jarrett is kind of afraid of Lymond. Not afraid of Lymond. Jarrett's afraid of Lymond's reactions and like potential explosions, but Philippa is not worried about that. And I think she has the protection of being a woman in that sense, or being an innocent girl at least, because time and time again, it's been proven that Lymond has softened when he's around Philippa. And so Philippa has this sort of trust that Lymond will never hurt her. And it's also true that Philippa was, you know, the one who caused lots of issues for Lymond, like when she was trying to track him down and he had to like knock her out, etc. But I think Philippa got a lot of trust from that, knowing that if Lymond does hurt her, it will be only for a really important cause. And then so she feels kind of protected through just who she is, that Lymond won't explode and, you know, isn't going to flay the skin off his back, whereas I think Jarrett isn't quite safe from that. It is really like creepy how Dunnett is just describing how there's like two girls pursued sluggishly by an elderly senator. Just in the bathing house, there's just like, if you go there as like a young woman, like you will end up with people just trailing after you hungrily, like predators. So it's very much a pickup zone is what I'm getting, like, and especially like there's a quote here where Jarrett is like, he is an island with all its bridges wantonly severed. What hostage to evil? Jarrett is basically like thinking that, you know, this bathhouse kind of is an island area with all of its bridges severed. So it's kind of like what goes on in Rome stays in Rome. What happens in the bathhouse stays in the bathhouse. So I think that it seems to be, it's like a neutral place. Seems to be the attitude that everyone in this bathhouse has. So they're playing this card game and the nuns are talking about, you know, how terrible their life was around like the Sultan Suleiman and the Christian prisoners and what they had to go through. And Francis is listening, and he must pick up at some point that these nuns are suspicious. I think if the nuns were trying to be undercover, they did a bad job at it, because one of them says she might have been Queen of Ireland, she told me, that black-haired Irish woman, and the golden child on her knee. It's like, there's just no way that they're going to be saying that as a coincidence in front of Lymond, so clearly they know something. It just seemed really obvious, right? I was like, what are the chances that Lymond would just be talking to some random people in a bathhouse and they bring up this exact detail? Like, it wouldn't be the case. But interestingly, we know now that they're alive. So that's something. Unless that's a made-up fact and Gabriel has sent this nun to kill Lymond, I don't know. Or get information or bait him, I don't know. So then eventually Lymond smells a rat. It's a bit confusing what happens. Accuses the nuns of hoarding money, and then the whole game gets tipped into the water and everyone's trying to dig out their money, and it gets a bit crazy, and then they like start fighting or like mock fighting. I don't know what really happens. I'm probably gonna have to read this again. I'm so excited to read everything again with the benefit of knowing what actually happens in the future, so I can pay attention to details. And then there's like a merchant there with his wife who's clearly like way more interested in Lymond than her husband. She's like, I get it. What is the merchant doing though? Is he noticing this? No, the merchant, who had discovered why his wife giggled, advanced on Lymond must have like done something suspicious under the water. Discovered why his wife giggled, advanced on Lymond through the water with dreamlike slowness, a pewter jug in his hand. Watch out, Lymond, you're going to get taken out by a pewter jug. What the hell? And so it's Lymond and Master Zitwitz aiding him stoutly against the nuns and this merchant for some reason. Then everyone gets out. And what happens is that Lymond catches one of the nuns and crazily just rips her clothes off in front of it in public. It's such a Lymond move, but I'm so shocked. I can't believe I'm still getting shocked about what he does. I should be expecting this by now. And the most satisfying thing about this is that as he's pulling the nun's clothes apart, I'm assuming in hindsight that he's doing this to look to see if there's a brand or something on them. Later it's said that under the robes, I must inform you, both the young lady and the older one were painted. I don't know what he means by painted. I don't know what they mean by painted. Does anyone know that? And their toenails were orange. So is that like the henna tattoos that people get? I don't know. It's very confusing. But either way, he obviously had to get their clothes off to get proof that they are suspect, like they're not nuns. But I just don't know what exactly he was seeing. That made him confirm that they were definitely not nuns. He says they were not, for example, nuns, for example. That's so funny. What happens is that as he's staring at this nun's bare breast, whatever, Philippa watches this happen, and then Francis sees Philippa in that moment. And it's so good because then Frances Crawford, grasping her arm, looked up and straight into Philippa's powerful stare. Oh, bloody hell, said Lymond. In that moment, Lymond is just like, great, I've gotten caught. Philippa has a terrible opinion of me, and now it looks so terrible because I'm here, like, stripping a woman in public. Can you imagine Lymond just being like, of all the times? But also he's probably like, well, what the hell, why are you here? Bloody hell. There's so much in that oh bloody hell that Lymond is just like, what the hell? Francis getting out of the pool. This steam, exquisitely apt, coiled round all his bare body and the twist of linen encircling his waist. Did you see that? He said. Yes, said Jarrett. So I imagine Jarrett is now seeing something suspicious about the nun that Lymond did. Lymond, without missing a beat, is immediately like, well, Jarrett's here. That's a surprise. Like, how the hell did they find me? But may as well use him. Come on, let's go. Lymond is just so resourceful and so quick. And so they go and find these nuns, but they're too late and they have been killed by someone. Were they killed by the guy with the pink? In the pink? I don't know. Did I miss something? And then they have dinner that night, and Lymond's just like, when I wish to be followed like a bitch in season, I shall tell you so. And where does your mother imagine you are? Is exactly what he should be saying to Philippa, because I think he would be genuinely concerned. And we've also got Lymond back to dressing really well. He wore dark velvet over dark toning satin and a ring of some price on one hand. So we've got Lymond dressing up again. I also just love the description here of Jarrett. Like, Donnett's just reminding the readers that Jarrett is also really handsome. So below the smooth tan, his skin was carnation coloured from the obstinate jaw to the fall of his splendid black hair. Erect and hostile, he faced Francis Crawford. So we've got these two really good looking young men, and then Philippa. She puts herself in some places, that's for sure. And poor Philippa is described as unwashed brown rat's tails compared to Jarrett's prickly splendours. And even Lymond describes her as pigged, I see, or pigged, with a full set of teeth. So at least he's acknowledging that Philippa has a full set of adult teeth. That's nice to know that he's noticed. And Philippa says she's here to look after the baby, which I think is partly true, but I also think she's just partly wanting to make sure Lymond is okay, and also partly wants an adventure, and is kind of swept up in this. Like, I think she really just likes adventure. She's done some crazy things in the last book, so it's good. So basically, Jarrett's like, we're here to help you hunt down and kill Gabriel. They have dinner, courtesy of Onofrian Zitwitz. I think I'll just call him Zitwitz. It's getting a bit hard with the Onofrian. Which they don't eat, and they chuck out a window, which is wild. Okay. Is no one going to notice that? I know that Philippa's like, it'll be covered by the snow, but yeah, but the snow melts. Lymond also says to Philippa at one point, are you what, 12 or 13? Like, Philippa has to be about 16 or 17, I think. And it's generally pretty easy to tell the difference between 12 and 17. And I just wonder if Lymond is underestimating her age and saying that out loud on purpose to make Philippa seem uncomfortable and more childish, or if he's trying to convince himself that she is a child and not a woman. Because maybe he's trying to deny some feelings, because obviously I am caught in the idea that Lymond and Philippa are going to get together. I don't know why. I do really like Lymond with Una, though. It's just, it doesn't seem like that's a good fit, because I think Una needs to be by herself, free and alone. Eventually, Philippa reminds Jarrett that we can't just go to kill Gabriel, because then the baby dies. Because Jarrett's like, let's go. Gabriel's in Malta. Apparently, Lymond has figured out that Gabriel is in Malta. Lymond is supposed to be going to Constantinople now as an envoy of the King of France. I don't know why. Probably some sort of deal. Peace, politics thing. Plot stuff. So Jarrett is really on this mission to kill Gabriel. He's changed so quickly. He was Gabriel's best bud, biggest fan, and then immediately switched to Lymond. It's like, as soon as Jarrett needs that figure above him, as soon as Gabriel was gone, he needed to attach onto something else. Otherwise he would be like, what am I doing? I have no purpose. And Lymond was the obvious thing to attach to. The way that Lymond speaks about his kid, if anything happens to Gabriel, daddy's little bastard will die. Lymond referring himself in third person as a daddy is just so crazy. I don't know why it's so funny. Anyway, so they recruit Zitwitz, even though he's working for some other duke. Lymond recruits him because that's what Lymond does. He charms everyone and everyone says yes to him. Come with me. Okay. The story of Lymond's life. Lymond is like, why does everyone want to follow me? I mean, he knows why. I don't really know why Zitwitz has... I'm a bit confused. I need to... Once again, I wasn't paying as much attention to Zitwitz because I just assumed he wasn't a big character, but he's obviously a big character because he's listed in the character sheet here. Why he would jump ship to Lymond is unusual when he obviously already had a good deal, so I'm unclear what's happening here. Like, he literally says, I cannot tell you that I will serve the embassy with my life. Oh, it's because Lymond said that he was an envoy of the king, so maybe that's why Zitwitz wants to go, or maybe he has something else he wants to do and now can tag along. I don't know. That will be remains to be seen. And then of course we get the ending scene. Just to remind everyone that Lymond truly is a man of following his whims and pleasures. We have the merchant's wife sneaking up to Lymond that evening, leaving at 2 a.m. and Salablanca then coming in the middle of the night to just clean up the evidence of the stuff that Lymond and the merchant's wife got up to whilst Lymond is asleep. Like, he's here setting the sheets straight and the wreck of the bed whilst Lymond is asleep on it. Like, why can't you wait till the morning? Why is Salablanca doing this whilst Lymond is trying to sleep? I don't get it. And it's just like, Lymond always has this, like, a handmaid who is male coming to, like, clean up his mess, like he had Turkey Matt in the first book. Lymond was asleep, hands outflung on the pillow mattress. Makes you think that Lymond really does trust Salablanca to be, like, really vulnerable and allow the door to be opened by him. I'm assuming Salablanca is, like, really staying guard, and because Lymond freed Salablanca, I guess he's just the sort of guy that's like, well, I had nothing else going on in my life. I was a prisoner and a slave, like, and this person is going to pay me and I have a good life with them. And obviously he must respect Lymond for doing what he did back in Tripoli. So yeah, he's got a very loyal servant. And there's just a really cute exchange between Lymond and the Salablanca where Lymond actually is like, wakes up when Salablanca is around. And he's just like, oh, couldn't you sleep? And then Salablanca's like, oh, I'm so sorry that I woke you, etc. And Lymond's like, can't sleep. And then Salablanca says, I sleep and I guard. And then Lymond says, there's no need. It's interesting. So Lymond doesn't think there's a need to guard himself at the moment. And looking as Salablanca bowed his head and withdrew, closing the door in the dark, on the dark. So, oh, it's just such a cute chapter to begin with Lymond in a bath and then end with him like asleep and totally safe. Seemingly happy. I don't know why Lymond feels pretty happy here, but also sad. He feels sad here because he's aware that every day that he is here is a day that he's not with his son, who is probably close to 1 year old by now or getting there. Or maybe even older. How many years have passed since he got back? 2 years? We didn't get a year, did we? We don't have a time. God damn it, there's no time. So maybe the little boy is like 1 or 2 years old by now. So anyway, that was only one chapter that I read, but that was because it was the opening chapter, and there was such a fun coming together of these three characters. I really hope we get these three characters going forward. It does seem Lymond is going to send them home, but I'm kind of hoping that they stay. I will see you for chapter 2 and maybe 3, depending on what I read, in a bit. See you later.